The forest along the northern border was quiet. The night everything changed. Alpha King Cade Ashford led his warriors through the trees, tracking a rival pack that had crossed into his land. He moved with the confidence of a man who had never lost a fight in his life. He was wrong that night. The ambush came fast. Claws flashed from the shadows, faster than any wolf Cade had fought before. He fought back hard, throwing off 3 attackers before a 4th caught him across the chest. The wound was not deep, but it burned in a strange way, spreading heat through his blood like fire eating through paper. His warriors pulled him free and carried him home, believing the danger had passed. They were wrong too. By morning, Cade could not remember his own advisor's name. By the 2nd day, he did not recognize the halls of his own pack house. By the 3rd day, his wolf would not answer him at all. The great beast that had always lived inside him, strong and loyal, had gone silent, curled somewhere deep and out of reach. The pack healer, an old woman named Sable who had served 3 generations of Ashford Alphas, examined him carefully. She found no ordinary wound. What she found instead frightened her. This was not a normal attack, she told the gathered council. The claws that cut him were laced with an old kind of curse magic. It did not just hurt his body, it reached into his mind and pulled out the last year of his life, as if someone tore pages from a book. And his wolf, sensing the wrongness, has gone into hiding to protect itself. Can it be reversed? Asked Councilman Draven, stepping forward with practiced concern on his face. Sable hesitated. There is one old remedy I have read of. A curse like this cannot be broken by medicine or magic alone. Only the touch of a true mate, someone bonded to him by fate itself, can call his wolf back out of hiding. Without her, I fear his wolf will fade completely, and when a wolf fades, the alpha does not survive long after. The room went still. Everyone knew what that meant. Everyone knew who that meant. A year ago, in front of the entire pack, Cade had rejected his own fated mate, Elena Voss, to marry into an alliance that would strengthen his borders. He had done it coldly, publicly, and without explanation, breaking the bond and breaking her heart in the same breath. The alliance had fallen through only weeks later anyway, but the damage to Elena had already been done. She had left the main pack grounds and built a quiet life on the outskirts, away from the pack house, away from him. Now they needed her again, only this time, Cade would not remember why he had ever let her go. News reached Elena on a gray afternoon while she was repairing a fence behind her small cabin. Her younger sister Mira delivered the message, her face pale. They want you to come back, Mira said. Cade is dying, Elena. His wolf won't wake up. They say only you can help him. Elena's hands went still on the fence post. For a long moment, she said nothing at all. A year of humiliation rose up in her chest, thick and sharp. She remembered standing in front of the whole pack, hearing him say the rejection out loud, feeling the bond between them snap like a rope pulled too tight. She remembered the whispers that followed her for months afterward. Let him find another way, she said quietly. There is no other way, Mira said. I know what he did to you. I hated him for it too. But if his wolf fades, the whole pack could fall into chaos. Rival packs are already watching, waiting for a weakness. You know how this world works. Elena closed her eyes. She thought of the pack members she still cared about, people who had never done her wrong. She thought of the children who would suffer if the Ashford pack collapsed into disorder. She thought, despite everything, of the boy Cade had been before power and duty hardened him into someone else. I will go, she said finally, but not for him. For everyone else he is responsible for. She arrived at the pack house 3 days later, dressed plainly, her spine straight, despite the whispers that followed her through the halls. She was led to Cade's chamber, where he sat by the window, thinner than she remembered, his eyes distant and confused. When he looked at her, there was no recognition in his face, only a strange pull, a tug somewhere behind his ribs that he could not explain. Do I know you? He asked. The question landed like a blow, though she had expected it. You used to, she said simply. Sable stepped in quickly to explain the situation to Cade in gentle terms, careful not to overwhelm him. He listened with a furrowed brow, absorbing the strange truth that a year of his life was simply gone, and that his survival somehow depended on the quiet, guarded woman standing near the door. I am sorry, he said to her, though he did not know what he was apologizing for. Whatever I did to make you leave, I am sorry for it. Elena's throat tightened. She did not answer. She only nodded once and looked away. Over the following days, Elena stayed at the pack house, though she kept her distance whenever she could. She helped Sable prepare the herbs meant to ease Cade's pain. She sat with him during his worst moments, when his body shook and his wolf's absence left him weak and cold. Slowly, carefully, something began to shift. Cade found himself watching her whenever she was near. Her voice calmed something restless in his chest. Once, when she reached out to check the fading wound on his arm, a spark passed between them, faint but unmistakable, like a candle flickering to life in a dark room. He gasped softly, and for one heartbeat, his wolf stirred somewhere deep inside him, only to sink back into silence a moment later. "What was that?" he asked, breathless. "Nothing," Elena said, pulling her hand back too quickly. "Rest." But it was not nothing, and both of them knew it. Meanwhile, Councilman Draven moved quietly through the pack house, spreading doubt among the elders. He suggested, gently and reasonably, that perhaps it was time to consider new leadership while the Alpha recovered. He hinted that Cade's condition might not improve at all, and that the pack could not afford to wait forever for a broken king to heal. Few noticed the eager gleam in his eyes whenever he spoke of temporary arrangements becoming permanent ones. Elena noticed. She had always been sharper than people gave her credit for, and something about Draven's calm concern felt rehearsed rather than genuine. She began watching him more closely, saying nothing, gathering pieces of a puzzle she did not yet fully understand. As the days passed, small fragments began returning to Cade, not full memories, but flashes. The sound of Elena's laugh from some hallway in his mind, the warmth of her hand in his, during a festival he could not place, a single image of her face, stricken and pale, standing before him as he said words he could no longer remember, but somehow still regretted. "Why do I feel like I have hurt you?" he asked her one evening, his voice rough with confusion. "I keep seeing your face, and it is always sad. Did I do something terrible?" Elena looked at him for a long moment, weighing how much truth he could carry in his fragile state. "You made a choice," she said finally. "A choice that hurt both of us, but it is in the past now. Focus on getting well." "It does not feel like the past," he whispered. "It feels like it is happening right now, every time I look at you." She turned away before he could see the tears gathering in her eyes. One night, while searching for herbs in the healer's private study, Elena found old letters hidden beneath a loose floorboard, letters written in Draven's own hand to a rival pack leader, discussing payment for a special weapon laced with old curse magic. The date matched the night of the ambush exactly. Her blood ran cold as she understood the full truth. Draven had arranged the attack himself, hoping to weaken Cade just enough to seize power through the council, while appearing blameless. She rushed to warn Sable, but before she could reach the healer's chambers, Draven's men intercepted her in a narrow corridor, having noticed her searching his study. They dragged her toward a side door, intending to remove her from the pack house quietly, before she could speak to anyone. Elena fought hard, but there were too many of them. Her cry for help echoed through the stone halls, desperate and afraid. In his chamber, Cade's head snapped up as if struck. Something inside him roared awake, a presence that had been silent for days, suddenly clawing toward the surface with violent urgency. Pain and power flooded through him at once as his wolf, hearing the cry of its true mate in danger, refused to stay hidden any longer. Memories crashed into him like a wave breaking against rock. He remembered rejecting Elena in front of the pack. He remembered the alliance that failed anyway, and the year of quiet regret that followed, a regret he had never allowed himself to fully face. He remembered loving her long before duty ever convinced him to let her go. He rose from his bed, his body trembling, and for the first time since the ambush, he shifted fully into his wolf form, fur and fury and instinct all at once, moving with a speed that startled even Sable, who had come rushing in to check on him. He tore through the pack house, following the sound of Elena's voice, until he found her struggling against Draven's men in the corridor. Without hesitation, he threw himself into the fight, driving the attackers back with the strength of a king who had finally remembered exactly what he was protecting. The fight was brief but fierce. Cade's wolf, fully restored, proved far stronger than any of Draven's hired enforcers. Pack guards arrived moments later, drawn by the noise, and quickly subdued the remaining attackers. Draven himself was found trying to flee through a side gate and was captured before he could escape into the forest. When the chaos settled, Cade shifted back, breathing hard, and turned immediately to Elena, checking her for injuries with frantic hands. "Are you hurt?" "Elena, look at me. Are you hurt?" She stared at him, stunned. "You remember my name. I remember everything," he said, his voice breaking. "I remember what I did to you, and I am so sorry. I was a fool who let duty blind me to what mattered most. I have spent a year regretting it without even knowing why, until tonight." Draven's letters were presented to the full council the next morning, along with witness accounts from the guards. The evidence was undeniable. He was stripped of his title and cast out of the pack, his schemes exposed for all to see. Cade stood before the gathered pack that evening, Elena at his side, though she kept a careful distance, unsure of where they stood now that the danger had passed. He turned to face her in front of everyone, just as he had turned to reject her a year before. Only this time his words were different. "A year ago, I stood before this pack and rejected the one person fate chose for me, because I believed duty mattered more than love. I was wrong. I have carried that wrongness with me every day since, even when I could not remember why. Elena Voss, you saved my life not because you had to, but because your heart is better than mine ever was. I am asking you now, not as your alpha, but as the man who never stopped loving you, to stand beside me as my Luna, if you will still have me." The pack fell silent, waiting. Elena looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for the coldness that had once broken her heart. She found none of it, only the same regret, the same hope, and the same steady warmth that had first drawn her to him long before either of them had ever heard of curses, or counsels, or broken alliances. "I do not forgive easily," she said quietly, "but I have watched you fight for this pack, and I have watched you fight for me. That means something." She stepped forward and took his hand. The bond between them, broken for a year, sparked back to life at last, warm and whole, as the entire pack erupted into cheers around them. Cade's wolf, fully awake and finally at peace, let out a long, contented howl into the night sky, a sound of a king restored, and a mate finally, truly home.